That's a clue. The primary, improve the forest health while a diversity of wildlife species. Second objectives include protecting water quality and maintaining a network of trails for recreation use. That's that place. Objective statements set the tone of your forest management plan as a whole. Management recommendations should be based on the landowner objectives. You have some objectives in. It probably wouldn't hurt to go to the Boy Scout website and find out what their goals are, what's the history of the area. I remember the area as Skeleton Valley and hiking out when I was a scout back in the dark ages. In other words, huh?
Were there dinosaurs?
There were dinosaurs out there. We did do that for wildlife habitat, you know. So Brontosaurus habitat, you know. And if you go to the other place where I went to Yagu where they had dinosaur caves and things like that, you know. In other words, recommended activities should be directly related to reaching the objectives of the landowner. Property. General description of the property. Attributes. You're going to get this from your GIS, your soil maps, your topographical ones. The topographical stuff, watersheds, natural landmarks. Their map, as hokey as it is, has the fun things about landmarks out there. Forest types, distinctive features of the property. You know, you could talk about the stone walls. You could talk about other things that are going on out at that area. Oh. The management set should include at least 4 maps, which doesn't really concern you except for when you look at the forest management aspect. But somewhere along the line in your presentation on the orals, you're going to need a soil map, forest land map, locust map, topographical map. This is more on the community forestry end. A lot of times when you do pure urban forestry, you take it one tree at a time. Other maps can include wetlands, aerials, endangered species maps.
When you say locust map, is that, do you mean like the scouts have with the different locations of things?
No. The locust map would be the map of Cranston. And in that map of Cranston, or in that section of Cranston, would be where this tract of land fits in. So you would have the borders of Phoenix Avenue, Situate Ave, you know, maybe Atwood Ave. So that would come in as a large, maybe might be even just section of a plat map.
It could be the whole state. You're showing right here. This is where it's
Right.
That's a locust map.
Right, but normally you want to get down to a little smaller unit. Basically, that's what it looks like. You have an aerial photograph, something like that, shows that directly where it is. The stand types, you're going to end up having to know what's out there. Oh, you can't see that. But the soil book or the soil maps will tell you what the soils are out there.
All available online from Righteous.
Exactly. URI/GIS. Yeah.
Online type RIGIS, and then a space, and then whatever it is you're looking for, you probably find it.
And I'm sure you can get the topographical maps now off online. All right, the stand descriptions, what do we have out there? And go from there. What is out there? What does it look like? Is it mixed hardwoods? Is it, 50 years old, 100 years old, etc.? They're basically broken down by age, species, composition, diameter, size, health, topography, soils, so on and so forth. Each forest stand should be similar in one or more of the attributes. Basically, in each of them, you have a description on the forest type, understory conditions, acreage, stocking level, basal area. That stuff you really don't have to be concerned about because if you're doing a forest management plan, it's critical, but that's not exactly what you're doing. That's something that we would end up doing as a forester to break down the stand into smaller components.
But you might want to be able to tell the judges if you think that Champlin is mostly hardwoods or softwoods, if it's mostly old stage or it's mostly mature trees, you don't have some idea.
That would be very critical, or if it seems like there's a lot of trees crammed in together, which might affect the forest health, that they're too close, like an overstocking of a stand. Your recommendation would be to do some thinning out there, remove poorly formed stems. They don't have any really future timber value except for firewood, releasing more of the desirable trees, and overall forest health will improve as a result of that. Basically, what we're looking at is that you would have a title page, landowner objectives, general property overview and history, the map sets, stand description, and activity schedules. So in a place like Champlin, you might say, well, we're concerned about insect and disease problems. This would be our contingency plan. Or we have a very healthy stand. We might want to start doing some forest improvement in it. And then someone else can dictate that we're going to put sites or do things differently with it. But the base recommendation is all based on the landowner's goals and objectives. When I did a lot of forest management plans, if you're telling the landowner to do something and they don't want to do it, it's not going to get done. So you have to work very closely with them and not mandate things, but have something that they can live with. Any questions on the forest management section? Like I said, this will double up both in the forestry section and the urban forestry section. A lot of the stuff is covered in elements of your management plan that I handed out to you. Any questions at all? All right, I'm going to do a quick walkthrough with this book. What it's going to do for you is give you some of the basis to do your programs. We will throw a lot of things at you. What this will help you is it might give you a thought or an idea on how to start things. Project Learning Tree has been around for 30 plus years. This is the program on the secondary modulars that they work with on the high school types of groups. Introduction, let's go to page 11. Places we live. So you have something special in the place that you live in. So you're kind of concerned about that. There's a lot of definitions. There's a lot of words in bold print. They can be helpful to you in your presentation on words that can be used that will explain what you're doing. You're in an urban type of setting. If we go to page 15, there's a lot of things on the background information for educators. And how is land use changing in the United States? This is some of the information you might want to keep in storage on what is going on, what is changing. And when they talk to you about the benefits of urban forestry, they're going to talk about stuff dealing with sprawl, traffic patterns, traffic calming patterns, green spaces, a lot of different things that deal with it. We also wanted to look at environmental impacts. And when we get to someplace like page 18 on the environmental impacts, it affects everything. Coastal areas, air quality, ag soils, disappearing green areas, biodiversity, traffic, loss of community character. Big thing on areas changing from the Ma and Pa store into, if you got dropped into a mall, they all look the same. There's an Applebee there, Home Depot, things like that. Even the trees are the same. So it doesn't matter where you go in the world. So you're losing this type of a character in it. One of the things that you might want, when we get into, let's say, lesson 1, which is found on page 25, we talk about personal places, something that's important to you. So it doesn't hurt to know that. Let's say you're in a rural area, or you have your favorite tree, or something you enjoy driving by, or something that your grandmother likes to sit underneath the tree, or someone like that that really enjoys it, you know? So we look at different factors out there. That can help you flip through that, look at some of the terminology in it. Exercise 2 talks about community character. What's going on in that community? What is unique about it? I know, like, I've lived in Situate for 30 plus years. And what happens in a town like Situate is it's not obvious, but slowly but surely the character of the town is changing. There's not as many rural spots as there used to be. There's a lot more houses. There's really not more, let's say, storefronts and things along that line, but there are plats where there used to not be. There are just a lot of things changing, and you don't really notice it on a day-by-day basis. But in the long run, all of a sudden, a place like Situate over 30 years has had 2,000 new housing starts. It's like, when did that happen? It's been slowly but surely. Chapter 3 in this is going to be very helpful to you. It's on page 49. Map your community through time. So if you're pulling up some of the old GIS maps, Champlin is not going to look different from the 60s to today. But the surrounding neighborhood is going to look drastically different from farmland into changing quickly. So in that area, over 30 to 40 years, it changed from agricultural land into plats, condos, etc. And like I said, it's an area that's surrounded by fences and plats and houses. So when you pop it up in the aerial photographs, it really jumps out. That's...
Write down 3 words: historic, aerial, mapper. Go there. It will show you photographs of your house from 1939 to 2014. All you gotta do is change the distance on where you want to see. Take a look at chapter 39. Historic, aerial, mapper. The idea is that you're going to help the city of Cranston and the Boy Scouts of America, at least hypothetically, develop a plan for this forest. How can this forest be managed? What would the goals of the Boy Scouts and what would the goals of the city be? And you're going to have to think about the neighbors, because if you all of a sudden go into Camp Champlin with a chainsaw, you go into Champlin with a chainsaw and start cutting down trees, the neighbors are going to panic. They're all going to get upset. So you have to at least consider what the neighbors think about the area. So that you have to look at who the neighbors are and what other uses are around it. As it becomes more and more of an island, your options for what you do, for example, from a wildlife perspective, some wildlife need larger areas, some need smaller areas. You've got to decide what wildlife, if you're going to manage for wildlife, which species would be appropriate to manage for in that tract. Does this make sense?
Yes and no. So you said the camp property is entirely fenced?
I'd say yeah.
It is. I've jumped the fence in several places.
Okay, well, it's not a high fence.
In some places it's an 8-foot stockade. Where it abuts the condominiums, I don't want to give away too much information, but where it abuts the condominiums, it's an 8-foot stockade fence.